Welcome to Puerto Rico English News, the only English-speaking broadcast of local Puerto Rican news and entertainment. Please subscribe. Keep us alive.
Here are the travel restrictions and guidelines for Puerto Rico as updated January 11, 2022. A mask mandate has been issued and still in effect regardless of vaccine status on all indoor areas. You will be fined if you are not wearing your mask correctly or not wearing properly, $100. Remember, private establishments may also have their own policies which must be followed. Minors, whom were exempt from vaccine or providing negative results, will now have to present negative test or provide proof of vaccination. Minors from 0 years to 4-year-old are not eligible for vaccination at this time, however they can provide negative test. Public employees or contractors must be all vaccinated, or will have to provide negative result every 7 days. No longer valid religious exemption or health concern, as negative test is an option.
Third dose, booster shot is required if you are eligible, in your state or country. Puerto Rico has made the third/booster available for a more broader audience. People who received the Johnson & Johnson/Janssen COVID-19 vaccine and are 18 years and older should receive a booster shot at least 2 months after receiving their primary vaccine dose. Pfizer, BioNTech or Moderna, at least 6 months after completing your primary COVID-19 vaccination series. No longer valid religious exemption or health concern, as negative test is an option. This applies for travelers, guests, employees, etc. Private companies 50+ employees or more private entities must be vaccinated or provide negative testing every 7 days. Private companies less than 50+ are encouraged the same. Hotels, inns, guest houses, and short-term rentals such as Airbnb, Vrbo and Join-a-Join. Guests, if your stay is longer than 7 days, you will have to provide another test every week. Upon check-in, you will have to provide negative test or vaccine proof. Unvaccinated guest must quarantine for 7 days regardless of negative COVID test.
Private-owned companies are allowed to require vaccination proof for providing services. This includes restaurants, venues, tour guides, store chains, malls, airlines, nail salons, hair salons, massage spas, gyms, etc. Masks are still required. Outdoor activities, which promotes mass assembly, now have to be pre-approved by the health department. All travelers must provide negative test 48 hours prior to their arrival in Puerto Rico, even with proof of vaccine upon arrival. For international travelers or connecting international travelers to Puerto Rico, negative test is required 24 hours prior to boarding flight, even with vaccine proof.
Domestic travelers must provide vaccination proof and provide a negative test 48 hours prior to arrival in Puerto Rico even if vaccinated. All unvaccinated travelers must show proof of negative COVID test 48 hours prior to arrival. Both international and domestic travelers must also fill travel declaration form. Go to https://www.travelsafe.pr.gov/. Keep in mind the majority of restaurants require COVID negative testing within the last 48 hours and/or vaccine proof for indoor dining.
iOS 15.1 on Apple devices, digital vaccine card is also accepted starting October 25th. Travelers from the United States who have their VACU ID will no longer have to fill out the traveler's declaration upon arrival in Puerto Rico. They will also have a separate line/area. In the case of adults traveling with minors over 2 years of age, they must fill out the traveler declaration, COVID-19 alert of the minor, and both can use the special line for people with VACU ID.
Puerto Rico Governor Pedro Pierluisi published an executive order mandating closure of businesses that cater to the public between midnight and 5 a.m., banning alcohol sales during those hours and prohibiting gathering of 250 people. This edict will remain in effect until January 18, 2022. Fines for breaking executive orders start at $5,000 and/or 6 months in jail. Forging CDC vaccine cards or providing fake certificates or information is $10,000 and 3 years in jail. It is a federal offense.
Businesses that carry out public or private events or operations will be obliged to require evidence of vaccination and a negative COVID-19 test 48 hours prior to event. Until January 31, 2022, those between 5 and 11 years old will be allowed to attend large indoor events by providing negative COVID-19 test results taken no more than 48 hours prior to the event. Starting February 1, 2022, this age range will be subject to the same guidelines as adults. Any other place where events are held that favor the crowding of people, regardless of whether a closed or outdoor establishment, must comply with the stipulations.
Cruise and ship passengers who are not vaccinated will not be able to disembark in Puerto Rico. The Ports Authority announced that the measures are part of a strict security protocol against COVID-19 that the agency established in conjunction with the Department of Health and the tourism company.
VacuID is available, digital vaccine passport, for residents of Puerto Rico. Digital vaccine passport VacuID is being rolled out first phase for residents that own a license or ID expedited by Puerto Rico. Second and third phase will be rolled out to other people including travelers. This will be the preferred method of ID and validation of vaccine status, to combat forgery and fake IDs. At the moment vaccines cards are recommended to be with your person and are and will still be valid. Establishments may request VacuID as their method of validation. VacuID, the digital app, can be accessed from the mobile application that will be available from August 11, 2021, in the Play Store for Android phones and, in the Apple App Store for iOS devices. Once the electronic document is registered, a merchant can scan a QR code generated by the application to validate the vaccination status of a citizen. State digital vaccine passports are accepted. Mandatory vaccination for all public employees and government employees. If employee refuses, they must provide a weekly PCR/antigen/molecular COVID test to the government. Cruise passengers who are not vaccinated will not be able to disembark in Puerto Rico. The Ports Authority announced that the measures are part of a strict security protocol against COVID-19 that the agency established in conjunction with the Department of Health and the tourism company. VacuID or vaccine card may be asked or required to show proof for certain businesses for entry or services. Have the vaccine card on your person at all times. If you have a medical condition that prevents you to get vaccinated, you may be exempt from the COVID vaccine. However, you may be required to provide a negative test if a private company requires proof.
Any indoor restaurants or bars must require people who wish to consume inside a vaccination proof or negative COVID-19 test taken within 48 hours. Indoor dining capacity allowed is 50%. Outdoor dining capacity allowed is 75%. A visible poster that establishes the number of people that can be inside an establishment should be posted. In addition, they will have a visible poster with a telephone where people can call the Department of Health to report any violation of these provisions. If a person is not vaccinated or does not have proof of vaccination, they can provide a negative COVID test. However, it must be a 48 hours test in order to enter the establishment.
The executive order requires vaccination of all employees who work in person in beauty salons, barber shops, massage spas, gyms, childcare centers, supermarkets, grocery stores, including those authorized for the WIC program, casinos and gas stations and convenience stores. Given the significant increase in infections, as governor I have the responsibility and duty to continue to closely monitor the daily statistics issued by the Department of Health and to take the necessary measures to guarantee the health of all. The vaccine has been tested and it works. Unfortunately, we are seeing that 98% of those hospitalized and the vast majority of deaths are people who are not vaccinated. We all have an individual responsibility to protect ourselves, said the governor. In a press release,
supermarkets, grocery stores, gas station, convenience stores and childcare centers will have to demand the vaccine from their employees. If they are not vaccinated, they must demonstrate to their employer a valid medical exemption. The new decree allows employees to request an exception for medical reasons, but they must submit weekly negative COVID-19 results of or positive test of virus recovery of at least 3 months. Any person or company that fails to comply with the new guidelines is exposed to a maximum of 6 months in jail, a fine that will not exceed $5,000 or both, at the discretion of the court.
Masks covering mouth and nose have been reinstated regardless of vaccine status. However, please carry vaccine card at all times. Traveler declaration can be found, https://www.travelsafe.pr.gov/. Children or people who are not vaccinated but are within the family nucleus and in an outdoor setting as long as they are within a family nucleus can be without a mask. At the beach, parks, swimming, playing sports etc. proof of family may be required, so please have ID. Beaches, rivers, resorts, hotels, and marinas are open 7 days/week. Dinner, this applies to restaurants, retail businesses, medical offices, funeral services, recreational, sports, equestrian, film, financial, community, consumer services, professional, non-professional, college and post-secondary, care centers, religious, government agencies, among other analogs. May be open 7 days/week. Weightlifter, bars, nightclubs, casinos, gyms, theaters, and amphitheaters may be open until midnight only. Restrictions are in place.
Ferries to Vieques and Culebra priority to residents, emergency personnel and people that have businesses in the municipal islands will have priority over tourists. The maritime transportation of tourists to the municipal islands of Vieques and Culebra will be governed by executive orders issued by the respective mayors. Check Culebra and Vieques EOs for more info. Culebra Municipality page and Vieques Municipality page. El Yunque National Forest and Camuy Caverns are open, but reservations are required for entry. Make reservations at recreation.gov. Traveler declaration can be found, https://www.travelsafe.pr.gov/. Filling out your traveler's declaration includes attaching a copy of your vaccine card or your negative COVID-19 test. Find the link in the description. A travel declaration must be completed by all passengers arriving on the island through the international airports Luis Muñoz Marin, Mercedita in Ponce and Rafael Hernández in Aguadilla.
Failure to provide a negative test will result in a $300 fine upon arrival. The option for testing after arrival has been removed. The airport has a testing facility working in various terminals. The test is administered there as a PCR test similar to the ID Now, which is also a PCR test. There are also PCR tests available in various pharmacies around the island.
Providing fake documents, not filling your traveler declaration, not responding to the text alerts, providing fake information, results to deceive authorities is punishable by local and federal laws. You can face up to 3 years in prison. They will send daily text messages to travelers asking if they are experiencing symptoms. Travelers must respond.
Marinas and boats may still be used, however, the anchoring of boats together prohibited. Public or private schools can continue online, but face-to-face school is now back in session. The reopening of the public and private schools, Head Start and Early Head Start centers have resumed, however they must comply with the protocol of the Department of Health for the reopening of educational centers when announced. Family visits to long-term care centers for the elderly, prison complexes, and juvenile institutions are authorized, following protocols of the Department of Health, the Department of the Family, the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation, and the Office of the Ombudsman for the Elderly, as the case may be.
Regarding the events, the administrative order of the Department of Health indicates that the organizers, owners, administrators or similar person who carry out and organize events or public and private operations and who attend or receive an audience of 250 people or less, will require that anyone who attends such activity shows evidence of vaccine and presence of negative COVID-19 PCR antigen test performed 48 hours before the event. It is required that venues and organized events, organizers, administrators carry a log of their guest, for contact tracing in case of any positive case emerges. Outdoor spaces must avoid overcrowding. At all times, a physical distance of 6 feet must be maintained between people who are not from the same family unit.
Camping is now permitted. As a requirement to carry out the activity, all participants must have a negative result for COVID-19 from a qualified SARS-CoV-2 viral test, nucleic acid amplification tests, NAAT, and antigen tests, performed within the 48 hours before the event. Puerto Rico English News does not create nor endorse these restrictions.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Help us survive.